A few years ago, before episodes of Hoarders had become popular, I had to visit a client's home, and it was stacked to the brim with everything you could imagine. Old electronics equipment, magazines, books, newspapers, figurines. There was clutter everywhere, and it was overwhelming to say the least. Now, if you live in a cluttered home or if you've visited a home with clutter, you understand that even if they are meaningful possessions, it can cause stress and anxiety. But for retirees, there's another component. Many of us need to downsize. Maybe we want to move to a less expensive state, or we want a smaller home. But one of the things holding us back is that we are completely overwhelmed with all the stuff in our house. What are we going to do with these things that we've accumulated over a lifetime? So in this video, we're going to walk through a proven step-by-step process to declutter your home, which if you're staying in your home will be helpful, but also it will be very helpful if you're going to downsize. We're going to cover how clutter accumulates. How do you end up with all this stuff? We're also going to talk about where to start in the decluttering or downsizing process, talk about setting a time frame, tackling the hardest areas, and then finally we're going to deal with sentimental items. That's one of the hardest things for me to do, right? To get rid of things that have some sort of sentimentality. And so what do we do with those? By the time this video is done, you're going to have a clear path, a clear plan for decluttering your home, whether it's just because you want a bit more space to stay in your house, or if it's because you want to downsize and sell and move someplace new. You'll have a plan of action to help make it manageable and achievable. But first, my name's Kevin Lum. I'm a certified financial planner, and this channel is dedicated to helping 1 million people retire without worry. Now, some of you may be saying, why in the world is a certified financial planner talking about decluttering, and what do I know about decluttering? Well, first of all, I once had a client who ran a company that helps organize people's homes, but also when you work with retirees, people who are downsizing, it's something a lot of people face. So some of you may just need to declutter a house that you want to stay in, but others of you need to declutter because you plan on moving. Now, most of us struggle with clutter of one sort or another. It often just sneaks up on us. Clutter accumulates for a number of reasons. The reason I let stuff accumulate is sentimental objects that have memories attached. I mean, I keep everything because I can't get rid of it. It's too special. In fact, one of the funny things about my daughter is when she was young, she had a hard time sharing with other kids. And when I'd ask her why she wouldn't share, she would always reply, it's too special to let somebody else use. And I have a bit of sympathy for that. That's one of the reasons I keep way more things than I should, because it has some sentimentality attached to it. Next reason we accumulate clutter is because we spent a lot of money on an item that may be outdated now, that we don't need anymore, but we spent a ton of money on it, and the idea of selling it for next to nothing or just throwing away is more than we can bear. The other reason we have clutter that accumulates is gifts, right? We feel obligated to keep these items that someone spent time and money and energy on and picked out specially for us. Do we need the item anymore? Maybe not. Is it old and antiquated and really has no use to us anymore? Yeah, maybe. But it's a gift. How can we get rid of this thing that someone gave us? Now, the other reason clutter clears out is because maybe your kids went off to college and they left some things behind. And if you're like us, finally your in-laws call you. My wife's family called us and said, look, you have to come and get your stuff or we're getting rid of it. Now, to be fair, we're 40 years old and it had been there for almost 20 years. But we're like, well, don't get rid of it yet. We'll be there soon to get it. And some of it we still haven't got. As you can see, there are a variety of ways that clutter begins to sneak up. So now that we know why we allow clutter to stack up, how do we go about decluttering? So the first way to declutter is choose a small area to start with. Don't take on the whole house at once. You know, some people say, I'm going to declutter everything in one weekend or 1 week or whatever the case might be. And then you're just so overwhelmed. Start with the junk drawer in your kitchen. Organize that. Whenever I'm giving advice for people and dealing with debt, we'll sometimes talk about the snowball method. You know, you start with your smallest debt, you pay that off, you celebrate that win, then you move to your next and you move to your next one. Well, the same thing with decluttering your house. Start with a drawer like your kitchen utensil drawer or the junk drawer. Once you've got that drawer cleaned, then choose maybe a messy cabinet or, you know, go to the next drawer over. And celebrate the win and just keep that snowball going. The second step is establishing some protocols for decluttering. The problem is that many of you live with a spouse or kids or partner or roommate, And you may have different rules or different thoughts on about what to get rid of. So think of some ground rules up front to prevent conflict, right? How do you know like which item you need to run by the other person and which item you can just throw away? Maybe have them quickly give a glance over the kitchen before you start the project. Is there anything really important to them in the kitchen, in the drawers, in the cupboards? Okay, no, then I have carte blanche to throw away and to give away whatever's in here. Maybe have them check first. I don't know what your rules are going to be. Be sure to include your other partner. Have a process of how you're going to sort out who gets to make the decision, what's going to get you're going to get rid of. And for some of you, you just live with a hoarder. You live with somebody who is not going to get rid of anything. My grandfather is a hoarder. He always has been. My grandmother, on the other hand, keeps the most clutter-free home of anyone I've ever met. And so the way she deals with it is she has a room or two of the house which she allows him to have carte blanche with. He can put all the clutter he wants in those rooms. And I'm not kidding you, they are stacked from floor to ceiling with old electronics equipment and bags of clothes that he's picked up at the thrift store. And then also he's purchased some storage units where he keeps some of his other goodies. And she does her best to keep the rest of the house completely clutter-free, but also provides a bit of freedom for him to kind of dictate the rules inside of those couple of rooms that he puts all of his stuff in, and then she kind of manages everything else in the house. So find what works for you. Okay, here's step 3. Create a reasonable time frame or timetable. You're not going to declutter your entire life in a weekend. Honestly, you're probably not going to do it in a week. If you do, it's going to raise more conflict with your spouse or your partner because it doesn't give them enough time to process it. You're going to overwhelm yourself. So unless you sold your home and haven't begun decluttering and you have to be out in 1 week, give yourself a manageable timetable. Break decluttering into chunks, right? Start with that kind of snowball effect and then just break it into manageable bite-sized chunks. We're going to spend a week on the dining room. We're going to spend a week on the kitchen. And then save the biggest spaces for last. Like, don't start with the garage. Save the garage for last. Now, it's probably just the psychological effect in the same way the death snowball works, but there's something really powerful about starting with the smaller spaces first, getting the energy from seeing your kitchen clean for the first time in years and be able to find everything you're looking for, and then working your way up to the larger and more complicated spaces. If you start with the garage first, you may end up just stressing yourself out, stopping, and you'll never finish. Okay, so that's the third step. Create a manageable time frame. The fourth step is systematically work through each room. Be really methodical about your process. Sort the items into a number of piles. The one pile is trash. Nobody is going to want it. I know that serving spoon that you've had for years is really nice, but it's broken. No one wants your broken serving spoon, so go ahead and put that in the trash pile. Then the next pile is the donate pile. Maybe this is something that you could give to the Goodwill or the Salvation Army. Then another pile is keep in the drawer, right? Actually, this is something we do need in the kitchen utensil drawer, or this does belong in the junk drawer. And then there's another pile that is the keep elsewhere pile. This is maybe, stuff that you should keep, but it doesn't belong in your kitchen drawer. And then the final pile is maybe it's give to someone, not just give away. So there's the donate pile, but there also might be a pile of give to family members, like check with your kids to see if they want it. And if they don't want it, then you can donate to charity or whatever it might be. So one other thing I might mention, some of you are really going to struggle with this. You're just going to not be able to get rid of stuff. And you might want to hire a professional. You just need a third party to come in and to help clear things out and to let them make some of these decisions. Maybe you go through and pull out anything that's incredibly, antiques or heirlooms or whatever that you just can't get rid of, and then let somebody else come through and do all the hard work. So step 5, you want to save the most difficult spaces for last, and you also want to save them for when you have the most time, right? So you don't want to tackle, if you're still working, you don't want to tackle the garage on Monday evening. You're never going to get it done. Save it for a holiday or a long weekend when you just really have some time to dedicate to it. And maybe if you have a lot of stuff, you might want to actually bring a dumpster in during this process. Get another company, like I said, have somebody else come in and help you sort through it. So those big areas, those big rooms, maybe put it on the calendar. Say, you know what, we're going to save the garage. We're going to save the basement until, the Memorial Day weekend. And then you're going to bring in a dumpster, maybe even bring in a professional organizer, bring in some friends, family, other people to help you clear things out and just get that knocked out. So step 6 is you want to donate things, not just throw them out. There's a couple of reasons you want to do this. Some of the stuff could be really useful to somebody else. And so you don't want to just get rid of it and just have more stuff collecting in a landfill. It can also be a tax write-off, but you want to bunch your donations together because it's harder and harder to write off donations because of the increased standard deduction. So let me tell you how this would work. So, you're getting rid of a ton of stuff. So you donate to the Goodwill or the Salvation Army. Most likely, they're going to give you a gift receipt. Now, they're probably not going to fill that out for you. You might have to fill it out for yourself. One thing that I found really helpful is TurboTax has a little app, and I can't remember the name of the app. It's like Donate or something along those lines. But TurboTax has an app for this specifically. Just Google it and you can find it. And they will suggest what the value of that item. So it'll have like nice women's dress shirt or something like that. And then is it in great condition, fair condition, terrible condition? And then that app will help you decide how much you should deduct for that item. And it'll also help you track all your donations. So anyway, so you get the receipt from the Salvation Army or the Goodwill. You've tracked all that. You've kept track of it. Let's say you have $2,000 worth of items that you've donated you could deduct from your taxes. The problem is that for most people, they're not going to have enough deductions to be able to cross over the standard deduction. But what you can do is if you are a charitably inclined person, or let's say you give money to your church or synagogue or wherever that might be, you can create a donor advised fund, maybe front load it. So if you give $10,000 a year to your church, put $100,000 into that donor advised fund, and then you can just donate from that fund over the next 10 years. So you don't write the check to your religious community or to the nonprofits you support. You just write the check from the donor advised fund. So now you've crossed over that threshold, the standard deduction threshold, and everything else that you donate now becomes a tax deduction. So if you get over that threshold through using a donor advised fund or through just donations that you make to a nonprofit, now everything that you donate to the Goodwill or the Salvation Army, that donation is going to be worth more money to you. Now, I know that's a lot to follow and probably should do another video about that someday. But if you do donate and you're able to take a tax deduction, there's a lot of benefits. First, you're not filling up a landfill. Second, you're helping support a wonderful nonprofit. Third, you help somebody get access to great clothes or great items at a reduced cost. More and more people that I know and that have plenty of money are shopping at thrift stores because they want to reduce waste and they find really great items there. So you're helping people find great items while reducing waste. And then fourth, you may actually be able to save some money on your taxes as well. So as you're decluttering, just think about, is this something that I should donate or is this something that no one is ever going to want? And if you're like me, you get so frustrated with the whole process, you just start throwing everything out. And when you get to that point, slow down and just think, I can reduce the waste in a landfill and maybe get a tax deduction and maybe help out a great organization all at the same time. So the next step, and honestly, this is probably the most difficult step for me, and maybe this is why I saved it towards the end, but it's how do you deal with sentimental items? I especially struggle with this. And so here are just some things that I found that are helpful. First, offer it to family members. Now, I have bad news for you. They may not want it. This happens to us. My in-laws or my mom will try to give us some heirloom or something that's sentimental to them, has no attachments to us. We're not sentimental about it. It has no meaning for us, and we just don't want more stuff in our house, and so we have to say no. But the first thing you can do with those items is try to keep it in the family. And then for items that just have memories attached to them, maybe pick an item or two rather than keeping them all. So maybe there's a bunch of items kind of related to the same person or the same time period. And so it's just not possible to keep everything, but keep a couple of items and then maybe donate the rest. There's a book by John Ortberg that's called At the End of the Game, All the Pieces Go Back in the Box. And kind of the general premise is that at the end of life, everything that we have spent all of our money and time accumulating is going to get boxed up and for the most part going to be donated to the Goodwill. Everything at the end goes back in the box. And so for us, as we're thinking about decluttering, and I know it's overwhelming to think about decluttering, but if you take it bit by bit, you can do it. You can go through this process of downsizing. And I think if we are willing to do the hard work, it can be a special opportunity for us because we get to choose what gifts and what items go to what family members and what gets donated where. Because if we don't, someday our family is going to have to go through that process. So if you are in the process or thinking about downsizing or decluttering, You can do it. Just create a strategy. Start small, build momentum, kind of work your way up, schedule the hardest rooms, maybe hire a professional, but it is doable. Now, if you are having trouble decluttering or downsizing, in the comments below, tell me what the biggest challenge is. And also, if you are thinking, I would love, once I finish downsizing, to retire, to move someplace else, but I don't know if I can afford to retire, well, I have a video on the 5 numbers you need to know before you retire, and you can watch that now.